invented nothing new. I simply assembled discoveries as a result of centuries of work. Progress happens when all the factors are ready and it's inevitable. Henry Ford. Why do you think Henry Ford said something like that? Let me just see if my pointer works. Yes? Okay. Why do you think Henry Ford said something like this? Have you ever heard a song on the radio and you swore you've heard that song before? You've heard something. It's a deja vu case. I know I've heard that somewhere before. How about a movie? Watching a movie. It could be years between you watch different movies. And you swore you've seen a storyline like that before, but it's not the same movie. Or about books. Many classic literature books out there, and you know you've seen that story or you've read that story somewhere before, or something like it. I want to challenge you with a question today. I'm going to take pieces of research from a documentary called Everything is a Remix. And this was a documentary by a man whose name is Kirby Ferguson. He's a filmmaker in New York. And I want to challenge you with this question. Is any idea truly original? Now, as you watch this presentation and I give you the information that I've researched, I want you to take away and think about this. Take away your own perceptions of what you think is truly original. Let's go back to Paris, 1961, and talk about a man named William Burroughs. He wrote a book called The Soft Machine, and he coined two terms in this book that we've never heard before 1961. The term is heavy metal, was the first one that he did. Now, when you think of heavy metal, what do you think of?
AC/DC.
Yeah! Bang your head. Quiet Riot, AC/DC, Def Leppard, you name them. But that's not what it originally meant. Heavy metal is actually coined as meaning to take pieces of manuscript, to cut them up, and to mix them up, and to create something new. He also coined a term called remix, which you know as today in any kind of music, hip-hop, rap, whatever. Everybody's remixing everything, right? It's a remix of every song out there, popular song out there. But this was very new back in 1961. Does anybody recognize this group right here? Hair band. Led Zeppelin, 1968, circa 1968. And Led Zeppelin was known as a band that was very popular, and they sold a lot of records. But do you know what else they were known for? Being rip-off artists. I don't know if any of you saw the news about that, and it actually was quite recent that they were known to steal music. This is a short list of what they stole and made it their own. Sonny Boy Williamson, Howling Wolf, Bert Jansch, Jake Holmes, and a band called Spirit, and all very popular tunes that they not only copied, they directly lifted the music. And it was proven in a court of law that they had to pay restitution and damages to these individuals, these artists. Now, why was it considered to be a ripoff? And what the court said was that they did not fundamentally change the core of the music. You could listen to one and you can listen to the other, and they are very, very similar. You can pick it up right away. 1971, George Harrison. Very famous person from a group you probably know from the 1960s called Beatles. And he had a record in 1971 called My Sweet Lord. And before that, there was a song called He's So Fine by the Chiffons. And if you listen to both of those tunes, you can definitely tell that there's something funny going on there. So George was taken to court by Bright Star Records, the publishers of He's So Fine and the Chiffons. And so George was sued, and he was found guilty. And he paid all kinds of damages. Why? Because he had money. And get this, it was not only that he didn't directly lift the music, they didn't prove that, but they proved in a court of law is that he copied it subconsciously. They actually proved that and made him pay damages. Take movies, for example. You take any kind of movie. Anybody recognize this one? Star Wars, science fiction. Ones like this. It goes way back to the early vampire movies. Then it goes up to Dracula and then all the modern ones. All the ones that followed it. Horror movies. Then you get comedy. And you get Chevy Chase with the Caddyshack. No. Rodney Dangerfield. I get no respect. You got Carl here. Oh, it's in the hole, it's in the hole. And then you got the Gopher. I'm all right. Nobody's worried about me. And then you have the action thrillers of Batman standing up there. I still remember Batman, the campy 60s television show where they had the really bad-looking tights and everything in bad colors. But anyway, they really spiced it up and did a lot of reboots of that. Then you got 23 different James Bond thrillers. The spy, the cool spy thriller, the Bond, James Bond. How does Hollywood do it? How does Hollywood keep making movies over and over again and make them look fresh? Well, they do it with something called sequels, remakes, and adaptations. They are the king of this. And how do they do it? They do it with genres, which are categories of movies and stories, and they do it with subgenres. So if you take a genre, fantasy, horror, spy thriller, action adventure, any kind of genre, they can split it into subgenres. For example, slasher, supernatural, and creature feature, which are all types of horror movies. Does anybody recognize this movie? It's from a genre called fantasy. And the movie is called, anybody? Yeah. Avatar, very good. Now, can you think of a movie that came out before this that had a similar storyline and was compared in the news? People were talking about it in the news. This is a ripoff of an older movie. Does anybody know? Take a guess.
Pocahontas? Or...
You're close. You're very, very close. That is the same subgenre, but I'm going to give you a movie that's also very similar. Does anybody recognize this movie? Dances with Wolves. Kevin Costner. And the genre is historical drama. They created a subgenre out of these storylines, and they called it Sorry About Colonialism. And you are right, Pocahontas was the same kind of thing. John Smith, they went and they pillaged and they made their land their own. They stole it from the Indians. It's about sorry about colonialism. So how do you get an idea? Can you do something like this? Well, you can with something called the remix method. It's an actual method. The idea comes from a book called A Technique for Producing Ideas by James Webb Young. Let's say you want to talk about, 1970s disco in New York. And you want to learn about this, everything you possibly can about this subject. And you want to use the remix method, and you want to try to develop your own ideas. How do you do it? The 4 steps to getting an idea are, 1, you create boundaries. What do I mean by that? You pick a subject that you're very passionate about. You become intensely interested, and you study as much as you possibly can. Saturate yourself with it. And don't stop for 1 second. Just completely saturate yourself. And then you tighten and broaden your focus accordingly to what you have time for. Number 2, you consume everything. You talk to people. You listen to music. You read books. You taste new foods. You smell things. You take all your senses in, and you not only study and research it, you absorb yourself with all the other senses about the same subject. Number 3, you digest the research. What do I mean by digesting research other than eating it and, having it come out like that? You study the materials, you organize, you take bits and pieces and you shuffle them around and you see what works for you. So now you're getting some idea of how you can remix and you can use heavy metal yourself. Arrange into a narrative. Tell a story. Use your own experiences. Group things together. Switch it around. Remix it up. Then the last, most important step in this procedure is to drop it. Drop it, boy. Drop it. You focus on other things. You completely leave it alone. Your subconscious will take over when you're sleeping and when you're doing other things. If you've given yourself enough material and you've remixed it, and you've absorbed and then you've digested and you've done all those steps, Next is to let it alone and be ready, because it will come, but don't force it. When it does, write down the ideas. You'll be amazed at what you can do. This actually works. You take your ideas and you wait. Something fascinating will come. And when you do, you remix, reuse, reimagine everything. And you know what? I bet you one thing, it's going to be absolutely amazing.